Okay, I think we are good to go.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Burke County Board of Commissioners special pre-agenda meeting. Pardon me. Special meeting for the Zoom virtual meeting here for Tuesday, July the 7th, 2020 at 3:00 p.m. I'll call our meeting to order and ask that if you do have any kind of devices that might create any kind of background noises, if you would silence those for us, we would appreciate it. Again, please identify yourself before speaking. Lance will be working with us today. Lance Riddle, our administrative assistant. Kay is on vacation this week. All righty. So, gentlemen, you've had the agenda in front of you for several days. At this time, I will entertain a motion to approve that agenda.
So moved, Mr. Chairman. Wayne Abley.
All right. Okay, we've got a motion from Commissioner Abley. I'll do a roll call vote this time. Vice Chairman Mowey.
Mr. Chairman, you need to do
Yes.
to make sure everybody's here.
Okay, I thought I had done that. Let me back up. Do a roll call vote, make sure everybody's here. Vice Chairman Mowey.
Present.
Commissioner Abley.
Present.
Commissioner Britton.
Present.
Commissioner Taylor.
Here.
Okay, now let's go back to Wayne's motion to approve the agenda, and I'll recall the vote again. Vice Chair Mowey.
Yes.
Commissioner Britton.
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor.
Yes.
And I vote yes too, Lance. That is unanimous. Moving on to our presentations. Our first presentation of the day is from Animal Services. And that will be the pet of the month, and that will be presented by Caitlin Settlemeyer, our Animal Services Director. Caitlin, are you on with us?
I am. Can you guys hear and see me?
We got you now.
Okay, perfect. So sorry, we just had to get back from doing a little something down here for Animal Services. So we are going to be presenting another cat and dog of the month for Animal Services. This has been a really great thing. Everybody that we have presented so far has been either pulled to a rescue or adopted into their forever home. So we look forward to presenting again this month.
All right, any questions for Caitlin from anybody? All right, we'll do the verbal roll call to leave this item on the agenda. Vice Chair Mowey.
Yes.
Commissioner Abley.
Yes.
Commissioner Britton.
Yes.
And Commissioner Taylor.
Yes.
And I vote yes also. So that's 5-0. Thank you. And we're moving on to our scheduled public hearings. And again, thank you, Caitlin. Our scheduled public hearings from Community Development is Zoning Map Amendment ZMA 2020-01 in public hearing. And that will be presented by Scott Carpenter, Deputy County Manager, Planning Director. Scott.
Chairman Carswell, this is Pete Minter,
Hey, Pete.
sitting in for Scott Carpenter today.
All right, take over, sir.
Yes, sir. Good to see y'all. It's been a while. Lance, if you could bring up the aerial land use map for the board to look at here. That's it there. Thank you. Okay, gentlemen. We are looking at a rezoning request. The applicant is Brett Perkins. He's wanting to rezone a 0.88 acre portion of the property that you see in front of you from the current zoning residential 3 to general business. When Mr. Perkins purchased these properties, they were 2 separate properties at one time. The property to the left of the screen had the existing storage buildings, many storage buildings on there since approximately 1988. The same owner owned an adjoining property which looks to be vacant next to the storage buildings. and at the same time, Mr. Perkins purchased both properties. He combined them into one parcel as you see it now. So his intent when he purchased the properties back in 2019 was to all along to expand that existing storage to the other portion of property. Well, when he came to do that recently, we looked the property up and discovered that second half of property was zoned residential 3. So in order for Mr. Perkins to expand his existing business and add another storage building, he would have to rezone that vacant portion, the 0.88 acre portion, to the general business zoning. Now, Lance, if you could go to the zoning map, should be 1 or 2 maps down. As y'all can see, there's existing general business zoning in the area along NC 18 South and Zero Mole Road to the north there. So there's plenty of general business in that area to where this small rezoning would not be considered a spot zone because of the adjacent general business zoning to it. So that is Mr. Perkins' request to zone that little patch to general business so that he can expand his existing business. Now, earlier this year, this went before the Burke County Planning Board, and that was actually May 25th of this year. And the Planning Board held a public meeting on this request. The meeting was open to the public. There was no persons from the public there to speak. And so after staff presented their presentation, the applicant presented their request, the chairman opened it up to the floor for public comment. And of course, there was none to speak. So we closed that and then moved to ask the board if they had any questions, and they did not. So that immediately went to a vote. A motion was made, a second was made to approve the rezoning application. The vote went to the full board and was unanimously voted 6-0 to recommend approval of the rezoning request. I'd be glad to take any questions if you had them at this time.
All right, gentlemen, you've heard Pete's presentation. Questions?
Mr. Chairman, I do not have a question, but with no opposition and the business already in existence, it would be hard not to grant that request, in my opinion.
All right, sir. Any other questions or comments? All right, hearing none at this time, I'll do a verbal roll call to leave this on the agenda. Vice Chairman Moe,
Yes.
Commissioner Abley,
Yes.
Commissioner Britton,
Yes.
and Commissioner Taylor.
Yes.
And the chairman votes yes also. Lance, that'll be 5-0. Okay, Peter, thank you so very much.
Thank you. Y'all take care.
Okay, our next item will be moving into the consent agenda. The first presentation will be designation of a voting delegate for the NCACC annual conference. Gentlemen, as you know, the 113th annual conference is going to be held virtually this year. The business session is scheduled for August the 6th, 2020 at 11 a.m. And each county is asked to designate one person as a voting delegate. And we may assign an alternate if necessary. So at this time, we will leave it open to your recommendation for a voting delegate.
Mr. Chairman,
You've been
Maynard,
doing this every year.
protocol, we usually ask our chairman to be the first choice, the vice chairman the second choice. And if neither of them can go, we'll pick from the remaining three. But I think that's a pretty good policy.
Wayne Abley, I agree with that.
Okay. Does anybody else have any other questions or comments? Commissioner Taylor, you got cut out there just a little bit, and I think you said to do the chair and the vice chair in that order.
Yes, if the chairman can do it, fine. If not, the vice chair. If
Okay.
neither of those can do it, we
Okay,
pick
good.
from the remaining three.
Okay. All right. Mr. Vice Chair, you do plan on attending, is that correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you so very much. All right, then, I will now take a verbal roll call to see if we want to leave this on the agenda again. Vice Chair Mulwee, Vice Chair Mulwee,
Yes.
Commissioner Abley,
Yes.
Commissioner Britton,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor.
Yes,
Okay, and I will vote yes also. So that will remain on the consent item agenda. Let's move on to item number 2 is from Lance Riddle today. Will be a technical correction to the JCPC term of seat number 7. Lance?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This item is just a simple technical correction to the term of the DSS director's appointment to the JCPC seat number 7. For the June meeting, the appointment should have been to complete the remainder of an unexpired term ending June 30th, 2021, instead of a full 2-year term ending June 30th, 2022.
All right, questions for Lance on this correction to be made?
Mr. Chairman, I don't have a question, but I will, for that JCPC. I am assuming if he decides he wants to continue after June 30th, he can put his name in the pot like anybody else.
Yes, sir.
I believe that would be correct. So,
Yes, sir. You are correct, sir. Any other questions or comments? All right, we'll take a roll call vote to leave on the agenda. Vice Chairman Mulwee,
Yes.
Commissioner Abley,
Yes.
Commissioner Britton,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor,
yes,
and I will also vote yes, Lance, so that'll be 5-0. Moving on to item number 3 is an appointment to the PBHM Board of Directors, and that will be presented by Lance Riddle. Lance?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This request is for a few appointments to the Partners Behavioral Health Management Board of Directors and CFAC. As you all know, Partners is the county's LME and provider of mental health services in the county's catchment area.
Lance?
Yes, sir.
Lance?
Yes, sir.
Lance?
he
Yes.
is answering you, yes, sir, Johnny. Evidently, you're not hearing
Lance, can
him.
you hear me? Hold up
Yes,
just
sir.
a minute. Scott, can you tell me, Scott Black, can you tell me what's happening here today with our background?
You're coming through, and Lance is coming through as well.
Okay, I'm
So,
getting a lot of feedback on is it just me?
It may be.
Okay. All right. Let's go ahead, Lance. I'm so sorry. I'm getting a lot of feedback, so let's try it one more.
No problem at all. This is a request from Partners. Commissioner Taylor has served as the commissioner's mental health representative for many years. Having served the maximum number of terms allowed, Commissioner Taylor cannot be reappointed. However, Commissioner Britton has expressed an interest in serving on the PBHM Board of Directors. You also have an appointment for Linda McCrary, who has served as the county's CFAC Consumer and Family Advisory Committee member. Ms. McCrary is willing and eligible to serve another 3-year term ending June 30th, 2023. And then finally, there's an application from Mr. Barry Nelson, Vice President of Nursing and the Chief Nurse Executive of Carolinas Healthcare System Blue Ridge. And he is up for appointment as well as a non-voting member representing an administrator of a hospital that provides mental health, developmental disabilities, and substance use emergency services. I would also like to note, Mr. Chairman, that the appointments to the PBHM Board of Directors, it's a collaborative process, and they fully support the appointment of Commissioner Britton and Mr. Nelson, as well as the reappointment of Ms. McCrary.
All right, gentlemen, any questions for Lance?
Mr. Chairman, not a question, but just a comment so everybody's aware. That one position is really hard to fill. And Burke was supposed to have 2 representatives. With the third one, we will have 3. And I'm sure the Mental Health Board is making that exception in order to fill that particular position, which is called for by the state on that board. Just so you'll understand.
Okay, thank you, sir, for that explanation. Any other comments or questions? All right, hearing none, I'll take a roll call vote to leave us on the agenda. Vice Chair Mulvey,
Yes.
Commissioner Abley,
Yes.
Commissioner Britton,
Yes.
and Commissioner Taylor.
Yes, I get retired.
No, you don't. You've been there a long, long time and did a wonderful job. And I'll also vote yes, Lance, on that one, okay? All right. Moving on to item number 4 from Community Development, it's a resolution to withdraw the Linville Dam Boardwalk and Trail Project from the STBG-DA program, and that will be presented by Shane Frisbee. Shane?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. NCDOT has had a number of cash flow and other issues that predated the COVID-19 pandemic and have since gotten worse. They've put projects on hold across the state, which includes our Linville Dam Boardwalk and Trail project. Scott Carpenter and I have had numerous discussions with NCDOT about the situation and different ways forward. And through those discussions, we feel that the best way for this project to move forward in a timely fashion and a substantially cheaper fashion would be for us to withdraw it from the STBGDA grant program. And what we are asking for is that the $100,000 grant match be repurposed so that we can pursue other grant opportunities with that same funding, as well as work with Duke Energy on the engineering of the projects in coordination with their ongoing CRA projects.
All right, gentlemen, questions for Shane?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to make one comment. I hate to see this thing canceled, but I wanted to ask Scott, so we'll get to ask Shane. Do you think it's worthwhile resubmitting that we don't want to lose it? And I guess you let them knock us down a second time before we actually quit. But I think it's just so much money and fits the programs that we are attempting to complete. So Shane, is it such a final no, it's no use to readdress it?
Commissioner, it would be a voluntary choice on our part. And mostly it's because that grant program comes with a lot more strings and a lot less flexibility. And we've been working through another project in that, and we really feel that it's going to end up costing us more over time. And that if we went with, say, like a recreational trails program grant, which we apply for annually, that gives us a lot more flexibility with our design criteria. It makes us spend a lot less money to use those grants. And we feel that we can keep the project moving forward and still come up with the best project possible for substantially less money and a lot less hassle for for the design considerations and for the county as a whole.
So we are somewhat encouraging this hesitation and move on to another project. That's what I hear you're saying.
Maynard, this is Scott Carpenter, so I am here.
Yeah, good.
Good to see you, sir. What we'll be doing is working with Duke Energy engineers, and for the same amount, $100,000, we will complete the project. We believe we'll complete it for less and still have money left over to apply as a match to another grant for Coalition for Recreational Trails, and that will actually fund the first building of the boardwalk. The bureaucracy at NCDOT attached to these grants is so bad now that for the $500,000 we could have spent, we would actually get less done than going with a private consultant, working directly with Duke engineers and building the project ourselves. I know it sounds crazy, but it's Shane and I believe it to be true.
Well, they are under fire right at the moment. Lawmakers are angry because they went over budget $740 million. So there's a lot being canceled coming down the pipeline. But I just wanted to make sure that we were good with letting this go away, and we can utilize the funds better somewhere else. That's okay with me.
It'll be applied to the same project, and we feel that we can have what will end up being a better result for ultimately less money from the county and less hassle overall. So we feel really good about it.
I understand. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Shane or Scott? All right, hearing none. At this time, I'll do a verbal roll call to leave this on the agenda. Vice Chair Moe,
Yes.
Commissioner Abley,
Yes.
Commissioner Britton,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes, sir.
and I will also vote yes, Lance. It'll be 5-0. All right, moving on. Item number 5 will be a presentation from General Services regarding Solid Waste Division and the Labella Associates Annual Services Contract for the fiscal years 2021. That will be presented by Miles Champion, our General Services Director. Miles.
Good afternoon, folks. Good to see you again. This item is for the landfill. Burke County has operated a construction and demolition landfill at the Johns River Waste Management Facility since 1998. The operation of the C&D landfill comes with state requirements for monitoring and reporting. These services are necessary to continue the operation of the landfill. The services are provided on an annual basis by Labella Associates. Additional work required by the state includes quarterly landfill gas monitoring at Johns River, East Burke, and Kirksey Drive landfills, and design of landfill gas remediation at East Burke and Kirksey Drive landfills. A contract is needed to perform the engineering tasks required by North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality, Division of Waste Management. The proposed contract is attached to this item for review. Anything over $90,000 requires board approval. The total amount of this contract is $191,000. Staff recommends approval.
All right, gentlemen, you've heard Miles's report. Any questions or comments? Anyone?
Mr. Chairman, on page 52, there's a statement in there of 67K, and in parentheses it says a fixed fee, and this is I think part 2 of this, but anyhow, to be billed monthly on a percent complete basis. And that, when I first looked at that, I said, good gracious, 12 months times 6-7 is $700,000. But anyhow, that's not its intention, but that could be, to me, that ought to be just cleared up a little bit because that, when I first read it, I said, billed monthly times 12 times 67. Of course, I quickly caught what it really is saying, but I believe it could be a little bit of wordings that would clean that up a great deal. It's 191,000 on one scale, and then it's 67,000 billed monthly. And what that really means is how long it takes to complete the job, the percentage is paid monthly as it is completed.
Commissioner, can I clarify for you? The 67,000 is only for task 2, and it is a fixed amount at 67,000. This particular task is broken down into monthly sampling and analysis. So it's every month they have to do a sampling and a report to the state. So it's a total of 67,000 for this particular task. And so they break it up into 12 equal payments, basically.
Did that clarify that, Commissioner Taylor?
It does, but somebody not having somebody by your side to do that explanation. Now, I didn't need the explanation after I studied it a few minutes, but you know, to me, it just seems like it could be cleaned up and written where it's a little more complete to understand. When you add 191 and 67, you get more than 191 anyhow, but this is a different item, but it's built within the same, it's all to be voted on together.
The 67,000 is included in the 191,000. It's only part of the 191.
Let's see, now I didn't know that.
Yes.
I wouldn't have known that.
The if you go back to page 14, task fee summary table, it adds up the 8 different tasks and their amounts. It comes to 190, and then we added the task number 9, which is the training for our staff to that to make it 191. So that's where these are all added up, is on page 14. There you go. That's it.
Yeah.
So task number 2 is 67,000, and that's part of the 191,000 total.
Okay, 30, 60, 70, 75, 100. And the 167 is fixed. Yes, sir. I see that.
Okay.
Okay, is any other explanation necessary here on that 190?
And keep in mind the motions for 191, task number 9 is just a separate document for training.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any other questions or points of clarifications needed? All right, hearing none, I'll do a verbal roll call vote to lead this item on the agenda. Vice Chair Mulway,
Yes.
Commissioner Agley,
Yes.
Commissioner Britton,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes, sir.
and I will vote yes also, Lance. So that is 5-0. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miles. All right, moving on to item number 6 will be from the Tax Department. That will be our tax collection report for June 2020, presented by Danny Eisenhower, Tax Administrator. Danny?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. This information will go from July 1st of 2019 through June 30th, 2020. And I'll sort of start at the bottom there. You can see on our property tax, we've collected 101.36%. The numbers in red are the amount above budget that we've collected, just as clarification. Motor vehicles, we've collected 107%. The two of those together go up and make our current year taxes, which are at 101.92% collected. Delinquent taxes, we've collected 118.26% of budget. Late list penalty, 161.11% of budget. Go up to the very top one, total property tax, when you look at the entire levy amount collected, we're at 98.18% collected.
All right, questions for Danny on the tax collection report?
Last year, we went over 100, didn't we, Danny? On
And
total collections?
on the current year taxes to budget, yes, we did.
Yeah, so,
And we're at 101.92 today.
okay, that's good.
All right, any other questions or comments? All right, I'll do a verbal roll call to leave this on the agenda. Vice Chair Moe,
Yes.
Commissioner Abley,
Yes.
Commissioner Britton,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes,
and I will vote yes also. All right, moving on to item number 7 is our release refund report for June 2020. Danny?
Okay, on the release refund report, we had $3,307.99 in releases. We had none rebuild, so that net release amount remains the same. There are $239.49 in actual refunds. And then on the vehicle tax, there are $109.56 in refunds.
Questions for Danny? All right, hearing none, I'll do the verbal roll call to leave this item on the agenda. Vice Chair Moe,
Yes.
Commissioner Abley,
Yes.
Commissioner Britton,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor,
yes.
and I will also vote yes. All right, Danny, thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, moving on to our items for decision from Lance will be an appointment to the Animal Advisory Board. Lance?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, a point of order, did we overlook the release funds?
That's what we just did,
No, we did tax collections.
and then we did release funds.
Okay,
It's no problem. We got it. Okay. All right, Lance, let's move on.
All righty. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, this is a placeholder item for a few appointments to the Animal Advisory Board. The terms of appointment for Alan Keller, seat number 1, Amy Burnett, seat number 3, and Captain Jeff Robinson, seat number 5, and Megan Bradley, seat number 7, in July 31st. Mr. Keller is not seeking reappointment, but Ms. Burnett and Ms. Bradley are. However, Ms. Bradley wishes to be considered for seat number 1 instead of seat number 7. And I believe we're still waiting to hear if Captain Robinson is interested in being reappointed or if they're going to have to find somebody else. So those are the proposed appointments. The term is for 2 years, and we have several applications on file, and we may get more in by the time of your regular meeting.
All right, questions for Lance on these appointments?
Mr. Chairman, I just had one. Lance, do we think that at seat number 7, we are going to get applications? Because I was wondering, Megan was already in that seat and is moving to seat number 1, but there's 2 other people trying for seat number 1. would it not make more sense for Megan to stay in seat number 7 and we pick up that, both appointments that way, whether it's Christina or Carla Wallace?
Well, my understanding of Vice Chairman Moley is that you all are probably going to have a few more applications to choose from. I know that Caitlin Settlemeyer, they've all been really drumming up support for this. So I would be very surprised if you all did not have considerable more applications to consider by the time of your regular meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, any other questions or comments about these appointments?
Mr.
So,
Chairman,
Lance-
I'm assuming that we're going to alter this motion a little bit, and knowing we're going to have more to choose from, so that can be taken care of as the agenda is filled out, as long as we get it 2 days in advance, I guess. But-
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
I was going to ask Lance, when are you going to cut off the applications?
That decision is ultimately up to Kay, but I know in the past, she has always done it to give you all ample time to look at and consider the application. So I would imagine it would probably be a few days before your actual meeting.
Usually the Thursday before the Tuesday, because she has to get it ready on Friday, I think.
And that's a pretty safe bet, Commissioner Taylor.
All right, let's make sure that we do get those applications in our hands, because if you think there's going to be more, you think there'll be more for seat number 1 and a number for seat number 7?
I don't know for certain, but I imagine there will be.
Okay.
Trying really hard to drum up applications for this board.
Okay, and see if we can get Jeff Robinson to commit one way or the other on his as soon as we can.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? All right, hearing none, I'll do a verbal roll call to leave this item on for decisions. Vice Chair Moe,
Yes.
Commissioner Abley,
Yes.
Commissioner Britton,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes, sir.
and I will vote yes also. Thank you very much. Okay, we have no reports to come in front of us today. I would like to give you a couple courtesy reminders to have your pets spayed or neutered, and also to pick up trash in Burke County. We are moving up in the census, 2020 census. We're not moving up fast, but we are moving up some. Be sure to like Burke County on Facebook. Gentlemen, we are going to be at the point of adjourning this meeting, but we do have a scheduled meeting at 4 o'clock for another matter that needs to come before us. So as we leave this meeting, you are welcome. I would really suggest that you cut your volume off on your computers. And if you want to drop your screens down, you may also do that, but we will come back at 4 o'clock for our advertised next special meeting. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, roll call vote. Commissioner Abley,
Yes.
Commissioner Britton,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
and I vote yes. I will see you back here at 4 o'clock.
Hey, how did the bid opening go? This is JR.
Scott, you ready?
We're all set. Go ahead whenever you're ready.
All right. Good afternoon again to the Burke County Board of Commissioners special meeting, Zoom virtual meeting for Tuesday, July the 7th, 2020 at 4:00 p.m. Again, silence anything that you may have that may make any kind of background noises. And at this time, I'll do the roll call. Vice Chair Mulway.
Present.
Mr. Abley.
Yes.
Mr. Britton.
Yes.
Mr. Taylor.
Here.
All right, Lance, everyone is here. We do have an item on for decision from our finance department, which is approval of a contract for proximity card entry, and that's going to be presented by Margaret Pierce, our Deputy County Manager and Finance Officer. Margaret?
Good morning, everyone.
Mr.
Or
Chairman?
afternoon, excuse me.
Yes, sir.
Did you all approve the agenda?
No, sir. Let me back up again.
So moved, Johnny.
All right, we have a motion by Wayne. Let's go down to roll call. Vice Chair Mulway,
Yes.
Commissioner Britton,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor.
Here.
Okay. That would be yes, Vance. Let me apologize. The chairman has been ill for about 4 or 5 days and has not recouped 100%. And I apologize for y'all. Just keep me straight. I do appreciate that. Now we'll move in for our items for decision. Margaret, go ahead, ma'am.
Yes, sir. As part of our efforts to reduce the spread of COVID-19, we're looking at doing approximately 140 door locks being converted to proximity card entry systems. This will increase safety for our employees now and in the future. Sage Security currently manages the systems at the Sheriff's Office, the Courthouse, Human Resource Center, Register Deeds, and the 911 Center. So to maintain consistency, we're recommending staying with the same company and just expanding their services to the other departments and buildings who do not have this. They will also take over maintaining the system. We currently don't have a maintenance contract, which has become an issue at 911 Center and HRC, particularly in the last year. So we'd like to go ahead and add that with this process. COVID relief funds will be utilized to provide for this project. However, there will be a budgetary impact in the 21-22 budget to include funds for the monthly maintenance fee. I'd like to entertain any questions you have on this.
All right, gentlemen, you heard Margaret's presentation about this project. Questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, Maynard Taylor. I was just about floored at that price. That's almost $3,000 a door lock. I know it's more than just a door lock. Several years ago, I went to price door locks with fingerprints for my home, and they were about $800, and I thought that was out of the world. But anyhow, is one of those available? What's this look like? How come it costs $3,000 a lock?
So the price will vary depending on the door. There are places where we spent, Scott Black, myself, Mike Cook, our consultant who's assisting with COVID expenditures to ensure they're eligible, and 2 gentlemen from Sage went to every door in the county looking at them. There are places where we'll have to replace the door itself based on the type of door it is. There are times when we're going to be replacing the door jamb because it's not appropriate for this type of locking system. There are times when we may just swap out a lock itself. And there are other doors, there's 37 doors that already have Prox card readers, but they're not up to date. They're significantly older technology that is not as fail-safe as we'd like, and we want to convert those at the same time to be the same as the rest of these proximity readers. They'll also, as part of this process, create a master key system for doors in backup that will assist with public safety, general services in case of a crisis and power outages at all buildings that would have these.
Well, do you have a pamphlet or anything with the picture of that door on it, that lock?
They are at the HRC building. I do not. They're at HRC, they're at Register of Deeds. They're, you'll have a name badge and you'll take it and just put it near it. It gets within proximity. There are a couple places where actually we'll have dual security where you'll have to also have a code. This would be such as the narcotics room at EMS, where you have to be extremely cautious of who has potential entry to this system.
Did we get competitive bids, Margaret, on this?
We did not, because we already have them in several buildings, so you want to stay with the same system. We didn't want to have two different vendors splitting the buildings up.
Well, there's more than one provider that would sell that same lock, wouldn't it?
It has to do with the software to maintain it also.
Pardon, I did not hear that.
It has to do with the software that you maintain it with also.
Yeah. And I got another question on the 90,000. I want to make sure I understand this. Authorize the county manager to execute additional contracts over? Shouldn't that be under 90,000?
That was something that Kay added to the presentation, I believe. Brian, can you address that?
That's if we have other future contracts related to COVID projects that would be over 90,000, so that we can move forward with those and not have to require other board meetings.
Excuse me, I didn't know I carried my hand phone down here. Well, I would like, Mr. Chairman, I'll address this to you. I think it'd be very helpful for myself. I don't know if other commissioners would enjoy it or not, but I'd like to have a 15-minute session where we look at the money we got and we look at all the things we can do with it. So we know when we're doing it, we're not breaking the law or anything, but that word, that over 90,000 kind of trips me up. I think anything that we spend that kind of money for needs the approval of the county commissioners, but I'll shut up at that. That is my opinion. It's just a lot of money. You do that 4 or 5 times and you can see that it can get up into $500,000, $1 million real fast. So, but that was my questions, and I think I got them answered, but I would like to see a pamphlet on that door lock.
I'll see
Thank
if
you.
the Mr. Parks with the company can send me something for you.
Pardon, I couldn't hear you, Margaret.
I'll see if Mr. Parks with the company can send me something for you.
Okay.
All right, Brian, let me ask you this. The authorization to execute the 90,000, that's just for the coronavirus relief funds. That's nothing to do with other monies, is it?
No, this is, we are talking about, and that talks about which utilizes Corona relief funds on behalf of the board. Again, there are other elements that we may find as we move through this period of time that we can have coronavirus relief funds projects. If the board is uncomfortable with that, I just wouldn't add that in the motion. But again, these can be fairly large when we're trying to do things to enhance the building and improve the security and safety for our staff and try to prevent the spread of the virus.
Does any other commissioner have a comment about the county manager executing contracts above 90,000 under the CRF?
Brian, this is Scott. Now, you said some of these can be time sensitive?
Yes, this virus relief money, we have to have the projects go through a review process with our consultant that tells us whether they think it's a good use of money that meets the requirements of the federal government and state government. And we also have to have things completed by December 31st. So we're trying to do the best we can with what we have. And then, of course, they've come back and changed and moved the goalpost on us again here recently and said they're going to give us additional monies. And then they're requiring additional reports. And we also have to share 25% of the total monies with municipalities. And we're working with our municipalities to do that. Of course, this other change just added some additional money to the pot to share with them.
Mr. Chairman Maynard again, we're sitting here and we meet every 2 weeks, basically. And I think it's I see it kind of weird, if you want to know the truth, that he can't execute a contract under 90, but he can execute one over 90. And that's what triggered that to me. And I think that, I think all of you, if you get a question about how you're spending the money, you need to know how you're spending it to answer to the citizens of Burke County. I know it's funded by CR funds, but it's still tax money. You never get away from that. It's all paid by taxpayers somewhere. But that's just my thought. It's not necessarily change it. I just thought it's kind of weird. Under 90. I mean, over 90 instead of under 90.
Brian, how does this project fit COVID funding? I mean, what with the door situation, how does that make the door less virus sensitive?
Well, I need Margaret, can you give me a little help on that?
Yes, sir. So Jeff, what it's doing is you won't be touching the locks as much. You won't have to handle keys. You will also, some of these doors are open. Some of these doorways are not securing the public or our employees from the public. We're also going to be looking at those. If there's any areas that need a door added, this would be part of what they would do. There is one place in tax we're adding doors, I know, in a hallway that's open now to the public. And we've checked with fire marshal and this is something they want to secure areas a little bit better from public ingress.
Okay.
What, Mr. Chairman Maynard, again, how much was the total money we got of the COVID money, 19?
We have received to date $1,722,000. There is a bill that, as of yesterday, I don't believe the governor had signed yet, but will give us another $1,700,000 in approximately. There's a little bit more to it than 1,000,007. We're waiting to find out for certain that that has been signed before we're able to proceed with notifying the city and towns of the changes in that last bill.
Would any of these funds need to be directed at specific COVID expenses that we have had, like, all of our EMS folks, daily meetings and all this kind of stuff that's perhaps run our cost up?
Yes, a portion of the funds will be used for that. We can utilize it for salaries for staff that have been more than 51% dedicated. We can utilize it for staff who are in public safety positions. And we are looking at that, Jeff. We have other projects to put up some more glass partitions in the works now. We utilize these funds for the additional cleaning of all buildings. We have another project in the works with the court system. We've done the signage and additional expenses for moving the court system with these funds. We've sent something out to all the departments to see if they have any other needs. We'll actually, for example, at DSS, they need space to meet better with their clients, and we're going to be able to do some minor renovations to offices to assist with that, to create some social distancing and partitioning for them. 33 offices at DSS are being reviewed.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I understand the shortness of time. And, you know, if we're going to spend 1.7 million or maybe $2.7 million, we obviously have to have a plan executed to, you know, see what is available, see where our needs are, where we're going to get it from. And I'm assuming before you pay, you got to have the work done. So whatever we do as a county is going to have to be expedited. But I certainly would appreciate that if these ideas come in, that we get kept abreast of the information and what projects we're considering. And that doesn't mean they're going to do all of them, but a prioritized list, if you will, so that, you know, so that we can be knowledgeable and know what's going on with that fund.
Did the consultant, did this project rank high on his list, Margaret?
Yes, sir. It ranked high on ours, and he felt very comfortable that it's eligible for the funding. Some of the projects are small. They may be as simple as buying a case of wipes. That's eligible under these dollars. We are looking at a large PPE order. We've worked with the departments that utilize the different gloves and gowns, Health Department, EMS, DSS, Sheriff's Office, and we'll be doing a PPE order hopefully next week for about $100,000. We're also buying storage boxes to put that in and some shelving for Mike Willis's building to put some of it on. All of that is eligible under this funding. One of the challenges we face with this, as Brian said, the time limit of December 30th is critical. But for example, this vendor, if we had waited till the July meeting, he's got several others contacting him, and we might have fallen lower in the list, and he couldn't guarantee our project would be done necessarily in a timely fashion. Plus, we're really hoping to sooner rather than later protect our employees as much as possible. So we're trying our best to act quickly when we can to get in line with the vendors, because plexiglass, for example, is a challenge to find so we're doing a different type of glass in some places. So we're having to really react as quick as possible. And I think that was the goal behind the other part of the motion that wasn't to do with the prox card system, is just so that we cannot lose an opportunity to get in line first.
That's
Mr. Chairman,
because
Maynard Taylor again, a question to Brian. Brian, that $4,500 a month maintenance is $44,000 a year. That seems awfully expensive. I don't know how many doors are there, but I think you said 140, but 140 doors maintenance?
This is for the entire county, all county facilities that have this type of system in it. So that's HRC, the 911, it would be this building, I think the courthouse, most of our county buildings. So this is spread out pretty far and wide, and you have to have a proximity card issued to each individual, and there'll be restrictions on where they'll be able to go inside of a building. So it's not just 140 doors.
Any idea how many? Estimate?
No, sir, I'm sorry, I don't.
Double that?
I have,
Probably in the neighborhood of 170 to 180, I think, doors. It provides all of the hardware and labor going forward, software updates. We won't have, it's not a contract where it only covers parts. It covers everything, and it's 24/7, since some of the facilities, some of the departments are 24/7. We're supposed to go into a contract this year with them, and they are going to waive the fees for this year's contracts based on the entire project. So we will not have that expense in current year. I don't have that exact figure in front of me. It was split between multiple departments, but we will have some savings during this year.
Well, Brian, I guess I have to trust your judgment on this, but you know, we're going to pay $2,800 and some dollars a door to install it, and after it's installed, we're going to pay $2,200 a year for maintenance for each door at 200 doors. That, I don't know if that seems high to anybody else. That seems awfully expensive just to maintain something they put in that was new this year.
Yeah, it is for the system in the broader aspect. Again, if right now, if somebody loses the key to the building they're in, that could cause us to have everybody's key reissued and the door lock changed because you've been compromised. With this system, if an employee loses their badge for this system, we just disable it in the computer and issue them a new proximity card with the ability to get into the building to the spots they need to go to.
And Jeff, that was another piece of it that made it qualify, by the way, was the contact tracing, where now, thanks to the cards, you'll have a better idea of who you've been exposed to in case of a concern, because you've limited where individuals can be in buildings.
Right.
So as far as timeframes, we're in competition with 97 other counties and the municipalities that are now trying to get on the list to spend their money. So the company is working on a first come, first served basis as far as doing work that needs to be done. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Margaret, this is Scott, how many of these projects are going to be exceed the 90,000 do you anticipate?
At this moment, I don't know of another one that would necessarily. We did take bids on some renovations for downstairs to try to close up the opening to limit contact and rework the lobby and rework an area over at tax and IT to try to limit some of their openness and contact. That did come in above 90,000, but we rebid it because it was much higher than we were interested in. It came in 176,000 and an $88,000 bid. We only had two. They were too far apart and they were not where we felt they would be. So we're reworking that project to send it back out. I don't think it will come in over 90, but it could be close. And again, once we do that, we're going to be in a time crunch because contractors are wide open and we can't seem to get in front of them.
All right. Any other questions or comments for Margaret?
Johnny, just one other analogy, if you don't mind, please. It must be a humdinger of a door lock, you know, and without really seeing it, you just can't hardly argue whether it's worth the money or not. But the warranty really gives me a problem. You know, if you went out and bought a car for $40,000 and after the year was gone, you paid $20,000 a year to maintain it. From then on, that gets hard to swallow. Brian, is there any negotiating on that maintenance fee?
I haven't been directly involved, but I would not, I wouldn't think that would be possible. But you never know. I just, again, we're in a unfortunate time crunch, trying to get things done and move on to the next areas of what is allowable under the guidelines for these funds to try to benefit our staff and our employees and the general public as much as we can.
Yeah, I know we want to and need to spend the money if they're gonna let us have it, but I think we ought to spend it wisely, I guess is what I'm saying. Mr. Chairman, that's all I'm gonna say. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Anyone else have any comments?
Margaret, is there any obligation going forward to maintain that annual fee if we choose at some point to stop?
It would be an annual contract that we could evaluate. It's annually renewable on that piece. The original system they put in was in 98. I'm not sure. I believe that was the one at a piece of the courthouse, he told me. But then it was never maintained. So what we're running into is it's so far out of date, you've got to, it doesn't work well. It's not workable for what's needed for the changes, but we could, and I'll certainly ask for any other discounts. I know we have bulk pricing discount in here. And as we go through the project, we do anticipate there could be a door here and there that might be a slightly different price, hopefully savings. I know the doors downstairs, they're looking at in this building, in the Avery building, how to make them electric if possible with a reader, because the doors now don't meet fire code for exit. If they're locked, they're not pushable. So that's a door that's going to be a significant expense to change it. So we are working with them to do the best we can.
Right. Okay.
Any other questions? Comments? All right, hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make the motion to approve the contract with Sage Security for installation and maintenance of a county-wide proximity card entry system in the amount not to exceed $400,000 utilizing coronavirus relief funds. Authorize the county manager to execute this contract on behalf of the board, subject to review and/or revisions by the county attorney. Authorize the county manager to execute additional contracts greater than $90,000, which utilizes coronavirus relief funds on the behalf of the board, subject to review and/or revision by the county attorneys. Excuse me.
All right, gentlemen, you've heard the motion is presented by Commissioner Taylor. We'll do a roll call vote at this time. Vice Chair Mulwee,
Yes.
Commissioner Abley,
Yes.
Commissioner Britton,
Yes.
and obviously Commissioner Taylor votes yes, and I will vote yes, so that will be unanimous. Okay. Margaret, as a sidebar, please, with a consultant, that future projects that needs to come before this board, gather us a project list right now and get it to us as soon as possible. If there's any way to rank those projects, I'd like for them to be ranked so that each commissioner can have the opportunity to take a look at those projects. And maybe if there's additional materials that the commissioners would like to take a look at, that we can make that available prior to our next meeting if we need to. Give us a little bit of an opportunity to see what's on this list. And if the governor does sign the new bill and the additional monies are available, send us all a list of how much we see each municipality receiving at the 25% level. Could you do that for me?
I can, and I was going to mention the new bill requires different reporting, where the prior bill only required a report, I believe, October 1st and December 30th. The new one requires monthly reporting. The first one's due July 20th, so I thought I could provide you at your next meeting a copy of that report in each month as we do it.
Okay. Do we have to approve the municipalities' expenditures of money like we did on the first bill?
The board doesn't, but I do. Brian and I will review those, and the consultant goes through each piece of that. We had several municipalities that did not feel they could utilize the funds, but we'll go back and work with them with the change in the, they've also changed some of the requirements of how you, in ways you can use the funding. This is, again, every 3 or 4 days, we get a change in what's eligible and what's not. So we're spending time making sure everything is still good and acceptable, but we can certainly provide you with those details as soon as we have them.
And those municipalities that choose not to use funds, that money will be dumped back into pot to be used by the remaining municipalities. Is that correct?
If they have any eligible expenses, they could. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for Margaret for clarification purposes? All right. Hearing none, there's nothing else on our special meeting agenda, so the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mr. Chairman. Maynard.
All righty, Vice Chair Mulwee,
Yes.
Mr. Abley,
Yes.
Mr. Britton,
Yes.
and I will vote yes, so we stand adjourned. Thank you very much, gentlemen and ladies.
Good night.
Good night.